Okay.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Ellen Sutter of ESP Presents and ESP Book Chats, where we bring page turners your way. Tonight, our guest is Tony Lindsay. We're going to talk about his book. Let's see if I can see it as well. You see it? It looks like good lighting. Melanie Knight, A Vampire's Tale. This book, we're going to talk about this. But
Good.
let the folks tell folks you have so many accolades, and I don't know where to start. But Tony, thank you again for always coming back. You always come back. I've been knowing you like 20 years now.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
think it's been 20 years since your first book.
Mm-hmm.
Our group had read your first book, and we've been following you ever since. Do tell the folks about yourself, what you want your readers to know about you. And I got some books that you want us to talk about before the story that we most certainly just read,
Okay.
as well as Vampire Tales, and give folks a chance to, because they don't want to miss this.
Okay. I'm a writer. I grew up in Chicago. Went to Chicago State. I have an MFA in African American literature, creative writing. I studied at Arizona State as well. I have an MA from there. Went to UIC, University of Illinois, Chicago. BA in psychology. Got a couple of postgraduate certificates in grammar and transatlantic literature. I read a ton. I'm too behind on my Goodreads, and that's driving me crazy. So I got to catch up on there, maybe 3 by now. I love African American fiction, mysteries, thrillers. I read, mainstream stuff too, but being a African American writer, that's where the majority of my energy and time goes to, that I read. Very proud of the writers behind me, because they're doing big things, man. They are making movies, films, videos, so I'm very proud of them. Accolades to those that came before me, my predecessors. I read them and admire them. I read those behind me too. And that's me. Father, 3 daughters, 2 grandkids. Been married for 34, 35 years. That's about it. That's me in a nutshell.
What do you want your readers to know?
Say again, dear.
What do you want the readers to know about you?
Other than what I just said?
Yeah, what you want them to know.
I like to read, and hopefully I write with you in mind. I try to always consider my readers when I'm writing, but I'm probably more loyal to the story. But I want you to enjoy the story. That's my main thing. I don't want you just to read. I want you to read and know that you're reading a Tony Lindsay book, and that you are, reading it because I wrote it. If you've read another one, this is your first time reading me because other people are telling you it's a great book. I don't know. Yeah, but that's all I got.
Yeah, that's good, Tony. I can say as a reader, and you can get any of those book stuff that we talked about, Acorn in the Skillet, Killing Breeze, just tell them the backdrop of it before we get to here. Those were the last 3: Killing Breeze, Acorn in the Skillet, and Chestnut Checkers. So just tell us about the backdrop so they'll know other things that you've done. Prior to this, you've been in the writing. You've just been writing, just back, and we know we did the YA book that you've done. We know about that as well, but this is most current. We want to get up. But one thing I can't put you in a, if I could say this, genre hole, because everything I read from you was different. So Killing Breeze was something different. Acorns in the Skillet was something different, but it both dealt with racial tension, unrest. And Checkers Not Chess, that deals with some family. And you could tell us more about it. Those 3, there was some more, but these are more what I thought about.
All right. The Killing Breeze is a psychological thriller. It is a story of a man who he's a college professor, but he's also works for an agency, the American Purist Society, that is all about trying to maintain, um, I, I guess, white supremacy in a way, but he's black. Okay, so what happens is in this story, every time a African American is slain by the police, the very next day in this city, a white officer is killed. So the whole country is looking at this city and trying to figure out what's going on. It is a psychological thriller, and it's called The Killing Breeze. Next is Acorns in a Skillet, which is a collection of short stories. What happens in these is this is a story actually about racecraft. Racecraft is a term coined by Dr. Lewis. Basically, it is when a person accepts white supremacy as a truism, right? As if it is really true. And that acceptance affects their behavior, and their behavior is called racecraft. So this is a collection of short stories of people who are suffering from that affliction of accepting that truth. All right. And Chestnut Checkers. It is a young adult novel. It is a full novel. It is the story of a young man, Thaddeus, who gets bullied, and he jumps on the bully back. The bully snatches his glasses and breaks them in half. So he jumps up and he fights the bully back. His other friends, his nerd friends, jump on the bully with him. So they get labeled as a gang, right? Get suspended from school, and they're called the gang. The truth of the matter is, who they jumped on was a gangbanger. So you see them trying to survive in their neighborhood with the gang, the real gang after them. It's a coming of tale story, but it takes place in urban and a rural environment. So it's a very good read. I'm very proud of it. And that's those three.
Yeah, I like I like what you write. I've read quite a few, but not as many as you have out there. I gotta catch up. But I did all I can say, Tony, is I cannot put you in like I said, a genre hold, if you will, because I can't say, well, and you just said earlier that like certain writers, I just use me for example, the author, I know by reading it, okay, I can say this is that author or that's that author. But you, because you change on us in a good way, you don't write in the same genre. And so we'll look and I'm like, okay, I can't say that this is Tony Lindsay, but I can say it's your style because you don't write the same thing. And I'm not, no offense to other writers, but you could tell that, okay, this sounds like them, but I can't say, okay, this sounds like you. Doing this book right here that brings us here today, Melanie Knight, the vampire story. At first I was like, I don't do vampire because I thought it was the vampire back then. And then to me, it's more like a sci-fi, I guess, espionage,
people have said
spy,
fantasy.
thriller, something like that.
Yeah, they've called it fantasy, speculative
Yeah,
fiction.
fantasy. It just kind of just pulled from those different genres. And I was like, the characters, they were all strong characters, but it seemed like you had the female with most power. They had a lot of power.
Okay.
So that's what I did like. And then I tell us about like Melanie, she seems to be the most powerful. Melanie Knight seemed to be most powerful. Her father, Daniel, and you have, I had to look the word up, but now I know what it means, that some of those people, they were nocturnal. And so I looked at that and I was like, okay, I see why the vampire doing things at night and different things. So tell the backdrop for those who just came on about Melanie Knight.
Okay. Melanie Knight was a woman who was very depressed. Her husband or her fiance had been shot down, and she was on the verge of killing herself. Um, she was that depressed. She had a handful of pills and she was about to take them when the vampire came in as gas and then materialized before her as a like 6'8" tall, dark black man, butt naked. And she didn't she didn't she didn't care, right? She was still getting ready to take these pills. Um, he, removed the pills from her hand and he took her. Um, he took her and left Chicago, and he actually gave her the name Melody Knight. She became part of his family. At first, she was hostile towards it, but eventually, she had to learn how to be a vampire. So the reader goes with this learning with her. There are flashbacks to when she became a vampire, and then you also hear the story of her now as a CIA operative. So you go back and forth to her learning how to be a vampire to her actually involved in the CIA case. And the two catch up with each other, and you see her um, actually acting against the CIA when she finds out something disturbing, but then she finds out that isn't what she thought it was. You see her actually take two other people, a son and a daughter. She also, and they don't call it, they call it a gift. She gives the gift to two other people, a son and a daughter. So they don't see themselves as demons. They're just another species of human, and they have human jealousies, but they do have power. You see a very powerful individual in Melody Knight, and also her sons, and they have wealth. So and the wealth makes sense. It's not like, oh, you're a vampire, so you get wealthy. No, you see them earning money, doing things, but they have that advantage. Like you mentioned, they're nocturnal beings, but and they bank with vampire bankers. Okay, so it is speculative, but it is a vampire tale. So it's horror, speculative, and it's an espionage, and it's a spy a spy story. Maybe I'm speaking that into existence. We'll
You are
see.
speaking it because it is, because it could even go into episodes. As I was reading it, I
Uh-huh.
see different episodes. And then also I see like what she said, Melanie said the only reason why she do what she did because her Daniel brought her on.
Hmm.
Now Fernando, seeing him and what she knew about Fernando were speculative about Fernando.
Hmm.
And I thought that Fernando was going to go a little further. I don't want to give the story away, but I
Mm-mm.
thought he was going to go a little further
No, he was just
on.
he was just the introduction. I used him to show you her power, right?
Mm-hmm,
Um, she drains him, but I love that scene when she goes out on the balcony and drops down,
mm-hmm,
into the night air. Um, she walks in. You see Melody in her environment, being a spy, but you also see that concern for humanity when she finds out that this man is responsible for the death of these children.
mm-hmm.
So, and she was upset that the CIA would not follow up with that. So she just took matters into her own hands, and so she has a compassion even as a vampire, and I believe that's a good thing for any
Yeah,
character. Yeah.
yeah, and also Chad, she called him her handler, and I
Uh-huh.
noticed they used the word minion and Chad. She said that Chad was in between nocturnal and partly human, and so the
No,
things
Chad
that
worked
they
for the
did,
CIA. He was human.
yeah.
And yeah, and what he did was he was her handler. He was who
Mhm.
gave her assignments and directions. Um, he met with an unpredictable death. I guess it's what a predictable if you read through the book. So he represented the CIA. And once she kind of was out of favor with the agency, you saw her developing even more. You
Yeah.
saw more of her growth. which I think is important for a character, even if the character is a vampire. Did you
Now,
like the cover?
Kelvin, yeah, did I like the cover? Yeah.
Okay.
And so Kelvin is the two guys that I get kind of look at, but Kelvin is the one that she mentioned most is
he
Hap, right?
Yeah, he is a minion. Okay, so
Yeah.
a minion is people that have power that the vampires gave them from drinking the blood, but they're still human, so they can return to being human if they step away from the vampire and decide not to continue. So she met Calvin. He was depressed because of his economics, right? So she did like Daniel did her. She only fed on those who were um, wanting death, wanting to die.
Hmm.
So that's how she was drawn to Calvin. But she, ends up not taking him, but giving him the choice to be a minion. Calvin, as well as the mother, the other girl, the other, her female minion. So she has a female and a male minion, and
Hmm.
you see that dynamic as well.
Yeah, yeah, I did see that. And also those detective Moss and those detective there, and then you had Juanita and Charlotte, her sisters, I believe,
Yeah, they were her
Juanita and
sisters.
Charlotte.
Hmm.
And she felt some sort of betrayal with Juanita, mostly Charlotte, coming in and out, being human and being vampire. And so I saw that, and those women were just very powerful.
Yeah, they were her guides. It was just like older sisters, right? They were showing her how to become a vampire.
Mhm.
Um, but you saw their lives too. You saw them attaining degrees, running companies. So she what happens there is the development of a weapon that can convert a vampire back to being human, right? The
Mhm.
CIA wants to use it and so that's another factor in the spy thriller of it, right?
Mhm.
And some vampires are changed and hurt by this. So she's even attacked with the weapon. I don't want to give too much away,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
you'll see how she survives or and goes through that. There are vampires in the story who love being vampires, and there are vampires who hate being vampires.
Yeah.
So
And when they
go ahead.
get tangled with the, like you say, with the CIA, and then also they call some slayers.
Hmm.
Can you explain those slayers? Because you had your minions, you had your slayers, and
Okay.
slayers seemed to be like they were powerful, but they were like more in their eyes betraying, wanted to either be on one side or the other. And
Right.
there were different sets of
Hmm. Yes.
slayers.
Yep. Slayers are in this story are humans who are trained to slay to kill vampires,
Mhm.
um, and they give up their vision so they can learn to become more deadly assassins. And they are, pale in color. They live on farms. They develop these skills, and they are coined and attacked. There's a whole society of people who are there to slay vampires. The name Slayers. Um, what has happened though, and I definitely can't tell you this part because that definitely gives away the story, but there is another layer of the Slayers. And so
Mhm.
when you read the book, hopefully when people read the book, they'll see that. And I really don't want to give that part
Yeah, we really don't want to give it all away.
away.
We don't. But the comical part, Marcus,
Uh-huh.
OMG.
Mhm. Tell me more. What do you mean?
With Marcus being a male prostitute
Uh-huh.
or being with a male prostitute
He is a male
and
prostitute. Yeah,
and
he
and,
was.
and being
Was.
caught like that.
Uh-huh.
And Melanie come to his rescue.
Hmm.
I mean, there was another time that there were like prostitutes and you just see Melanie just swarms down, get her meal. And I'm just laughing. I'm like, Tony, what get this from? What in the world? And
Yeah.
I'm like, he trying to get his money and
Yeah,
it was
he's an interesting character. He actually becomes quite wealthy with her. He runs the company, well, one of their transportation companies. But how she meets him is it's interesting.
Quite interesting.
Yeah.
I cannot. It's like he was a manzo in distress, damsel in distress. He was a manzo in distress, if I can use that.
But he
And
wasn't
then,
afraid of her. He was like, "Oh, hey, I heard you guys need assistance." So
and she
yeah.
could implore him and stuff like that. But I did like the fact that you had them having like real jobs, and I hate to use the word real jobs, but jobs that are known to be a job that is lucrative and could be. And what she got to talk to, I'm going back to Fernando Costello about what he does and how she can, she try to like, to me, as she was talking to him, she wanted to get him to say what she needs him to say. And she'd be kind of one up on him, especially when she's telling him about the Sierra Leone rejection and cargo contamination.
Mhm.
And so being a vampire, I guess they talked about different kind of kills, like this is a human kill versus this is a vampire kill. Could you tell us about that without giving the story away? And hopefully, I don't think it would give the story away if you tell about the different kills.
You mean when a person? Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
The
because there
death.
was because they would say that's more of a human kill. This is more what a vampire would do.
Right. Well, what they were in there, that was a big loss to her, and she was looking at the deaths, and she was saying that his blood should be tinted green because he was a minion, but
Mhm,
he had been hit with the weapon, so his blood was just pure red, as if he was human. And so when the weapon not only affects the vampires, but it also affects the minions. And so
mhm,
that's why there was a difference in the carcasses. Now, when her sister develops the weapon, when Charlotte develops the weapon, that is traumatic for the whole, her whole family. You know, the death of her father is very traumatic for them. So there's a lot of trauma that she survives in the story. Uh, yeah, that's the difference in the blood, and is that
mhm.
one has been exposed to the weapon and the others have not.
So Reginald, so there was not to give it all away, there was a girl. I was trying to figure out, did Reginald have a girlfriend or was he that girl's minion? I was trying to figure that out. I think
No, Reginald, her son, he ends up actually going with the undercover CIA cop, right?
that's what I was.
Right. He actually gets involved with her due to when they were attacked and they come down, and she actually saves them, right? But all this time, and I did give a little bit of the story away, but she is an operative. So, um, and I don't want to talk too much
Yes, yes, yes.
that's a
Let's not.
surprise, right?
Let's not.
Right.
Yeah. So there was okay, because I was like, I was like, I know that there's somebody, another person that's not his sister.
Yeah.
I know there was like these girls here, but she couldn't be
Now,
his
what
sister.
was really interesting about I think what's really interesting about Reginald is he didn't, even after he was a vampire, he was angry at her for taking him because he really wanted to commit suicide. He had that
Yeah.
shotgun in his mouth. He was going to blow his brains out. And for her to come take him when he woke up as a vampire, he was still extremely
Yeah, he
angry.
was. He was. He was
So
very angry.
yeah, and that eventually you see that his acceptance, and that's a big motif in the story. Acceptance, not just for vampires but for humans as well. um
Mhm.
yeah, so that's definitely a motif
But they
in that.
mentioned her mother. So was Melanie like their mother, or was there a mother there? I knew that like Daniel, he was only her father because of the vampire thing, but not like her paternal father. I didn't,
Hmm.
But was
Right.
there a mother? Because they did mention like there was a mother, or were they calling Melanie mother?
They did call Melody mother, but
Hmm.
Melody did have a mother as well, but she's not part of the story.
Okay.
Yeah, but they
That's okay.
refer to Melody as mother.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, she taught them different things, and
Hmm.
they also mentioned like hashtag tiny small spoiler, how the difference when the women, they when they transform,
Hmm.
and there was a little
Swoosh, when they swoosh.
yeah, there was a little sarcasm when they were telling that, okay, Melanie, you never really seen the males, uh, the males as they transform. So they were talking to, I think Reginald at that time, or one of the guys at that time, after the house was raided and everything, and they had to
Hmm.
leave.
Right.
And so,
She
yeah.
did not understand why Reginald um, couldn't accept the gift as a gift, right?
Hmm.
So Daniel was just trying to inform her that um, a male's attitude is not the same as a female vampire's
Hmm.
attitude.
Hmm.
You were raised with your sisters and you have a daughter. You've taken a son now, so there's some difference in his how. And he was, you know, a bit sexist, right? And
Hmm.
that's what her daughter saw in him. So um, Melody went to Daniel to talk more about this because she was getting ready to behead him. She was like, "There's no sense in
Yeah.
I shouldn't have gave him the gift. I'm going to take his head, you know." And Daniel was like, "No, you have to understand. He's not a female. He's a male, and there's differences in the biology.
Hmm.
Even in vampires. I mean, there's more testosterone in a male than there is a female. So
Hmm.
there were differences. He had a different attitude. He wasn't, and being a sexist didn't help either. So he had a lot to deal with,
He did. He
So
did.
yeah.
With when they were doing the blood, and they had to feed. I
Hmm.
was looking at that where she said she could smell, like this smells like garlic, this smells like that. And they knew that smell that they wanted to when it was time to feed and stuff.
Hmm.
So is that was that one of their gifts as well, or superpowers as well?
Well, we as humans, when we're involved in certain biological activities, there are changes in our body, and they could smell those changes, right? If
Mm.
people are having sex, they could smell that
Mhm,
because they're having sex. When someone is fearful, they could smell that,
mhm,
So that's I think it's biology. Any type of predator can smell and they are predators, and so therefore they can smell what's occurring or what's going on. So that was, I guess it is a gift or a part of their powers, but they're predators, so they feed off of others. So,
yeah. This is good. It just
did you
really,
like the African scene when they met the Africans? Did you? Yeah.
I probably didn't get there yet because I'm
Okay.
like 3 chapters left.
Okay. All right. I won't
I'm
tell you
like,
too much about that.
yeah, don't tell me the end.
I
I'm about 3 chapters in. I was like, you know how I read other books before
right.
for each
Exactly.
show.
Right.
So I
So
was
that
I was 3 chapters in to
okay.
finishing.
Okay, there's an origin story in the book too, the origins of vampires in America that's in there, and you see that, and that goes back to an ancestral period um, during slavery. That's
Oh, I
just
did get a little bit of that. Well,
and that's in there. So I was people have been commenting on that, saying that was just as strong a story as the espionage, and I was surprised by that. I was well pleasantly surprised because
mm,
it's backstory to her development, but or the whole vampire family's development. So the reader is given some tidbits of vampire origins in America, and I think I'm gonna leave it there. Oh, I can't hear you.
yeah, sorry about that.
Okay,
So
okay.
no, I didn't get, I got to where they talked about Julius and how Daniel, their little background and their
Okay.
history,
Okay.
and the history of that and
Oh,
different
those
types
two.
of
Yeah. Well, yeah,
yeah,
you're there. You're about to
yeah,
see it now. Yeah.
yeah, because I was like, you even talk about, I'm almost believing from you mentioned these, like I think you mentioned um, Ukraine, those different type of things that have these exotic things going on, I guess I would say that way. So
Hmm.
what made you develop this story right here? What were you looking at the time, or it just because you could just pop some stories off. So
Well, no,
what
I
were
was
you
actually,
thinking about this one right here?
someone asked me to write this. A publisher asked me, or told me that they had an interest in a black vampire novel. So um, I wrote it, and when I wrote it, I was working on I I had a novel in mind about a voodoo priest, and it's still in mind. Um, and so I was already on that path. But when they came to me and said, "Hey, we want you to we would consider publishing a vampire novel," and I said, "Okay, I'll write it." And I think it took me too long to write it, um, and because it took me a little while, like 2 years to write this novel,
Mhm.
and I almost three. And even though it's a short book, it took a bit of time, and I think I missed a window of opportunity. But once I finished it, I still wanted it to get published. So I, marketed it and did some stuff, and it's a reality now. So
Yeah,
that's
but
how it came to be.
well, maybe you think you've missed the window in that scene, but I think you were right on time, because with doing this, it seemed like you've done some research on some of the things and things you said. Even if it was made up, it made me think that they were, you researched some things, at least going in between both worlds like that,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
and then those different scenes. Like I said, this could be a movie and you have different episodes in there,
Hmm.
and you kept up with those episodes, and you didn't leave an empty trail of like, okay, this is going on, well, how did this get from there to there? And you did give some background stories of different people and the dad. And so there's, but in the way they speak to each other, you
Hmm.
know Daniel and Melanie and different ones, and how they even had this, I guess, human instinct that they couldn't feel them anymore and they knew something was up, you know.
Yeah. And that's what happens, because the telepathic relationship is only between the vampire and who he takes. Like Melody and Charlotte and Juanita could not communicate with each other telepathically, but they could all communicate with Daniel because Daniel took them all. Just like
Mm-hmm.
she can communicate with her daughter and her son because she took them, she gave them the gift. So that telepathy is between the vampire and those he gives or she gives the gift to. And
Mm-hmm.
and that's how they were able, and that's why when Daniel was killed, she no longer felt them.
Yeah.
And that was a big loss for her too, you know. So
Yeah. And to give we won't give this away, but how she learned a lot about what was
it's
going on. Yeah.
yeah.
What was going on behind the scene with those different things. And being a vampire, I was thinking about, with these different human market, um, and all of 51 billion uh,
The
dollars worth of
dollars.
that. Yeah,
Oh,
so
now
it's like,
that's a true figure. That industry is growing, right? The human organ
mhm,
industry.
mhm.
And as far as who controls that is an issue, right? And in
Yeah,
this novel, the vampires control it, or
mhm.
it's found out that the vampires actually control that. So that's but that's an actual number. It's a $51 billion industry.
Mm. So doing you got in this book, you got human trafficking, you have betrayal, you have, I think, a little bit of love, family issues, friendship, and I see all that in there. And Christopher, even though short-lived, Christopher, do you have anything else on Christopher other than being married and shot down? Was there something he was?
Yeah, that he was he was a drug dealer,
Mhm.
and she was a young college student when they met. And
Was she vampire then, or she
no,
wasn't a
she
vampire
she was
then?
human. Yeah.
That's what I was
Yeah, yeah,
thinking.
yeah, she was human. And he was murdered on their wedding day. And even, she went through a little bit to accept him as a person. Again, the motif of acceptance again is throughout the story, but she had to view him past what he was.
Mhm.
past the things that he did, and she did. And well, she didn't have to, but she did, because he touched her,
Mhm.
and they fell in love, and then he was murdered. And so she was ready to take her own life because she didn't see life, because she was depressed when he met him. She
Yeah.
suffered from depression. He brought her out of depression, right? But then he's dead. And so her depression returned twofold, and she was ready to end it. But
Yeah.
she was taken by Daniel. And so now you see her develop as a vampire.
Yeah. Yeah. She's very, very powerful. She was very powerful. It's a good, I think it's a good story. It's not as scary as I thought it was going to be, but there is a little scare, but it was a lot of humor to me. I don't know if Sonia is on there. Sonia said that Natalie was one of her favorite characters, and she said she wanted a sequel.
Okay.
She loves vampire stories. She's a
I have
vampire
not thought
buff.
about a
She loved
sequel,
Marcus too.
but there can be a sequel. I have not thought about it, but it's left to the point where it can be another book. So we will see.
Wow. You think you'll make her all the way human or go in
Oh
between?
no, no,
No,
no. She'll definitely stay a vampire.
she'll stay a vampire.
I think that's how she's happiest, you know.
Yeah, it does seem like that.
Hmm. Hmm.
It does seem like she is happiest being that vampire. So this has been a great conversation, especially always with your books. And this, like I said, is different. Melanie, if you guys can see that right there. Melanie Knight, A Vampire Tale. You'll get a lot of stuff. Like I said, espionage. She said vampires are real.
I didn't hear you. What'd you say now?
Sonia said vampires are real.
Okay, well, they could be. They could be.
Oh my goodness. I don't know. I don't know. This was really something else. At first I was a little bit scared, and then I got more. What kept me free is more of the spy thriller type.
Hmm.
That's what kept me. And you didn't have a lot of. I thought it was going to be like, you remember the movie Bottomless Columns?
Okay. All right.
It was going
All
to be
right.
the vampire like that,
Hmm.
but it's more of a like I say, espionage, um, thriller, spy movie, and she definitely had her power. So again, with her being depressed, is
Uh-huh.
that one of the reasons why you wanted to make her powerful, or and
I
give her
wanted her
abilities?
to move beyond the depression. I wanted people to see. I'm sorry, I was trying to go on. I wanted people to see that there were some positive things to being a vampire, right?
Mhm.
Everything wasn't um, all horror, all horrible. You know,
Mhm.
you can. I didn't want it just to be a Barnabas Collins dark, gripping.
Yeah.
I wanted you to see that being a vampire is just another source of power in this world,
Mhm.
and she was happy with that source of power.
She was.
Hmm.
She was, and she was very happy with. To me, she was very happy with her powers, especially she could take a man out. I mean, she was good at that, and she also used her. I thought she used her femininity, her sexiness,
Hmm.
and also she used her knowledge. She wasn't just a sexy, dumb, witty dimwit, whatever, but she
No,
was also powerful
yeah,
and
she ran a
knew,
company.
yeah,
You
and
know,
she knew what she was doing.
right. Well, she was
Um,
running a company, and she passed that opportunity on to the lady from Ghana, right? She brought her in,
mhm,
became godmother to her son, So
mhm.
it was a lot going on.
Yes, yes. Sorry about that.
That's
My
okay.
sound is
That's
not
all right.
good. I thought I put my airplane thing on. Yeah. So, how do you feel about this book, The
I'm very
Vampire
happy
School?
with this book. I think it's going to generate people. I think people who read it will like it. Um, And that's why I write. It was intrigued. I'm intrigued by the story. I can open it up now and sit here and read it. Like, oh yeah, that's cool. You know. Um,
So did
I-
you read the story before you put it out? I know that might be a crazy question, but did you read your work, you
oh
know,
yeah, yeah,
as if
definitely.
a reader were reading it?
Yeah, yeah. It's gone through a couple of different edits. Um, and there's two stories in here. There's her becoming a vampire and her life as a vampire.
Yeah.
And then within that, there's her life as a vampire and her being an espionage agent. And in her old life, you see her fighting or overcoming depression. So you
Mhm.
see, and then you see her having acceptance of she didn't I wouldn't say she loved, well, she didn't love the vampire, but she did love the human, right? And so she gets involved romantically with a vampire who has wealth and drives a Bentley, but he hates being a vampire. So you see her dealing with vampire who she is dating who hates being one, right? A
Yeah.
father who loves it, a father who's like, this is, so I think when a reader reads this, they're going to get way more than what they bargained for in this brief little book. I think they're going to
Yeah.
walk away from here going, wow. So,
Yeah, yeah, that was something else. It really, it wasn't just a small story, but it was a small meaty story, because I did get a lot out of it, and I said I could see different series as we're going on, like you mentioned about her being a vampire, and then you did have them in relationships and the sister sibling rift that
mhm,
was going on, and Charlotte, even though Melanie seems to be like the, I guess, mother hen. Seems like Charlotte was next in line for, she wanted to be innovative. She wanted to uh, just, I don't want to say save the world, but it seems like she wanted to save the world because there were times when, well, the Knight family is very powerful for
mhm.
what they do. And just to see that, without giving away, but like Charlotte sees what is going to happen and she sees the future and she knows that something needs to be done.
Hmm. Right. She had been a vampire longer than Melody. And she was
Hmm.
like, what you guys are going to do, I've already done.
Hmm.
So she had, um, I think, lived for like 300 years. And she was just, that's just too much life. And
Yeah,
and I did that too, right? I purposely did that because I was wondering, what is it like to live for 200 years? You know,
yeah,
I was like, man, you see so many presidents, you see so, but then you would also see, grow tired of seeing the repetitiveness of things over and over and over. But dude, are you fascinated? Because Juanita was fascinated. She's like, I want to see what's going to happen next. And that's
mhm,
how Melody was, where Charlotte had lived longer and had experienced more. And she was like, no, this life is not supposed to go this long. Maybe
yeah.
that was the human part of her. But
Mhm.
and I you wonder, hopefully, when the reader reads it, they'll wonder what's it like to really be a vampire.
I know Sonia does.
Mhm.
Sonia does. She loves it. She loves it, asking for more. I don't know where, because I'm not at the end, so I'm saying
Mhm.
three pages in, so I'm finishing it tonight so I could do your review. But based on what I read, I can see now, based on what I've read,
Mhm.
I can see like I want to know what will happen to Reginald. Will
Mhm.
Reginald have uh a human relationship, as human as he probably would want it to be?
Mhm.
Because I think he was trying, you know, getting out there and having a relationship like that, a human to vampire relationship. And then I would want to see what Charlotte is doing based on what I've just read. What is Charlotte going to do
Mhm.
with this innovative weapon she has created? Will they want her to sell it for X amount of money? Will it appease her to get rid of her invention? Is it even worth selling the invention? So based on just that right there, maybe you can come back like that. I don't know, because I haven't gotten to the end.
I think the end will surprise you.
Wow.
I think the end will surprise you.
Wow. I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward. Tony, it has been great. You know, I could keep you all day.
Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. I like the way you said that you, when it comes to reading others' books, because I've heard some authors say they don't read other people's books.
Oh
They
no.
just read, they just do theirs. And so when it comes to reading your book, I've heard authors say that they don't read any other books while they're writing. Would you say you're the same as well?
No, I read all the time. And when I'm writing, I read.
Okay, so none of that will filter in you to
It
make you
may,
feel.
but I read writers I respect and admire. So if I'm writing and I'm reading some Toni Morrison, and if my writing steps up to a Toni Morrison level, hey, kudos. If I'm reading some Baldwin or some Wright, but I could see why people would do that, because maybe they are reading writers who write, who may not have. But I read people who I admire. So um, I admire them for their technique. So I've never not read while I was writing. I've heard people say that, and I'm glad I'm not, that's
Mhm,
not part of because I enjoy reading. Reading relaxes me. And I read nonfiction, fiction. Um, so, and I knew one writer who would only read nonfiction while he was writing. Well, I know one writer who only reads nonfiction while he's writing, which is cool.
mhm.
Um, I um, I'm inspired, so I don't. If it influences me, because it takes me a long time to write a book. You know, it, it took me 3 years, 4 years to write Chestnut Checkers.
Mhm.
So if for 4 years I wasn't writing because I was reading, that would be horrible for me.
Yeah. So you have a
So
certain place, do you have a certain place or a certain thing when you start doing your writing? Because some people, they have certain areas, they go away from home, they do those different things.
now I have a little desk over there that I write there, or I'll sit
Mhm.
here sometimes and write, but this chair is too comfortable. I prefer read. I prefer reading in it than writing in it. Um, I write in the kitchen. I
You
used to
don't have
write
to
it.
go away from the home too, right? You just.
Yeah, right here. I'm I've done that though. I've gone to Starbucks and sat
Mhm,
and
mhm.
tried to write in there, but I watch people, so I'm distracted. I'm sitting in Starbucks. I'm like, huh. I'm watching, oh, they dating, huh? And they working here,
No,
So,
you don't need to be there.
right.
You
I'm
mentioned
watching.
your good read book. I do. I've just started really paying attention to put my books on there because I read a lot of books.
Yeah, I do the
According to my
challenge.
good read from the years that I've been reading, is that I had like way back accumulated like 148 books, but that's over a period of years.
Right, right,
So
right.
now I got my good read at, I said I want to do 25. I'm at 19. So I'm
Yeah,
like you, yeah, I'm books
I'm
ahead
behind. Yeah, I'm
or one
behind.
ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, it feels so good. And then some of the books I read, the authors were new. And I just learned that you can just type their name in and it'll come up if they're
Okay.
not on Goodread already. So I missed
Yeah.
out on a lot of, so I may have more than 19, but I'm still happy with that.
Hmm.
I'm happy with
Yeah, I think
that.
I'm too behind, but see, that's my fault because some of these books I'm reading are so dense. They may be brief in numbers, but
Mhm,
they're dense in material. Like right now, I'm reading Race After Technology because I'm still in a book club, and
mhm.
so I do the book club readings plus my own readings plus my my readings to keep up. But this Race After Technology is really a deep book, and
Wow.
there's a lot. It's nonfiction, so there's a lot of information, and
So
so
how
it,
do
I,
you pick
it
your books? when you're going to read. Like me, I read my books based on the synopsis. I'll do that. It don't have to be any particular thing going on, how I feel or anything. And so the most I've been without reading is maybe 1 week. I
Mm,
read all the time, and also
right,
I'm in a
right,
book
right.
club, and I'm in a book club with someone else. But we do our book of the month as well as I read the books for the shows that's coming. That's what I do too.
Yeah.
So
I read.
in a month I'm reading like 5 to 6 books
Okay,
in
yeah.
a month.
I read craft books, and then I read nonfiction, and I read fiction, and it depends. I got a whole um I got I hate to say this, but I have a whole library of books that are to be read, books that I haven't
That's
read
all
yet.
right. I got some to
Right.
be read too on my
Right.
shelf too. And I
So
call
I,
them, we got some rereads too. That's
yeah,
some we
I do.
didn't quite
Yeah.
finish, but we got
Right.
to reread. Got
Right.
a couple
Right.
of rereads. So how many times do you read your book? Like if you read a book before, do you read it over again? Now me, I can only read my books one time.
No, some
I
books
don't
I
read them
can.
over again.
I can read some over. I've read Toni Morrison's Jazz probably 3 times.
Mhm.
I've read Leon Forrest's Meteors in the Madhouse probably twice. I've read um, Go Tell It on the Mountain probably twice, maybe 3 times. So there are some books that I do read over because um, they're they have an effect on me, right?
Mhm.
And I have changed in my life. Like when I first read Go Tell It on the Mountain, I was probably like 19, and I missed so much of the intricacies in the story. Reading it at 62, I'm like, damn, that man could write. Whereas I was like, oh wow, what a great story. But now I'm like, no, dude, for him to look at this sentence, look at this structure, so I look at it differently now
That's
where
good.
yeah. So yeah, I reread a lot actually. Not a lot, but I do it. Like I've read The Man That Cried I Am, John A. Williams. I know I've read that book probably maybe 4 times,
Oh
you know.
wow.
Yeah, so um mhm.
Who's
I've
your
read Sula.
I put you on the spot all the time with this one.
No, go ahead.
Tell me your top 5 favorite authors.
Oh, wow. Okay. Toni Morrison, Walter Mosley, and not necessarily in that, I'm not saying um
Got
Dean
3 more.
Farr, Dean Farr, um uh I'm sorry. Toni Morrison, Walter Mosley, Dean Farr, uh I have to say John A. Williams. Um uh,
You got 1 more.
Here, let me see. If I'm just sitting here and not looking, because if I was looking at my bookshelf, I'd probably say some other else's too. Um, yeah, I'm gonna have to throw Donald Goines in there.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
because he was
Yep, that'll be
probably,
good. That'd be
yeah,
good.
who I started out reading, and I'm gonna add Chester Himes too.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's probably, and of course I like, of course I like Terry McMillan, but I'm more of a Gail Jones from that era, more of a Gail Jones guy. I
Mhm.
love Gail Jones. Tony McCabe Bambara. Um, so those are some of, and now poets, Carolyn Jones, Hakeem Madabuti, Sterling Plump. Um, and there's a lot of new poets I like too. And my guy Jess, who won he did Lead Bottom, and then he wrote this last one that won the Pulitzer. He was definitely one of my favorites. Um, so that's it. Those are my
Those
people that
is
I love to
awesome.
watch, that I
So
love to read.
what's next for you, Tony,
Um,
book
I,
wise?
I've got a David Price piece I'm working on.
Mm-hmm.
One Dead Activist. but I can't write it because I'm trying to finish up. I have an editing assignment that I'm trying to get finished. But once I get the editing assignment finished, I will return to One Dead Activist.
Oh, you've started on it already.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I
I can't
started and I
wait to
had
see
to
that.
stop because they were paying. So
Yeah.
I had to go to the paying customer first.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yes.
So, this one is that in the One Dead series, like One Dead Preacher,
Oh
when
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah,
going to
yeah,
be
yeah.
in that series?
It is. It's a David Price mystery. So that's
Okay.
definitely, yeah, One Dead Activist. And then I've got the voodoo thing clicking in my mind. It's been clicking
Oh
in
my
there for
goodness, I'm gonna have to.
that's what you said about the vampire piece.
The vampires, where are they?
Because
But
see,
I definitely want that one, the activist book. I definitely want
yeah,
to check that out.
when I wrote Street Possessions, what was originally titled Prayer of Prey, right? It was about this African king who sold his people into slavery and is reborn in the body of an addicted person. So
Hmm.
um, that was speculative fiction, right? And so that's when people say, um, I haven't written in that genre before. So no, I have. So it's like I've written spooky stuff before. Okay,
Mhm,
so
mhm.
yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
Well, tell folks where they can reach you.
I'm on Facebook. You can Google me. www.penforhire.com. www.pen-for-hire.com. Penforhire.com. That's my actual website. But tag me on Facebook.
Yeah, because you're there, and
Yeah.
you it's you responding. It's not anybody else. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Well, it has certainly been great. I
Thank
hope
you
the
so
coffee
much,
is not
Ellen.
too cold. You are so welcome. But mine is cold now. It's always a pleasure to have you here. We look
Alrighty.
forward to the activist book. That's what I'm looking for.
One Dead Activist is
One
coming.
Dead Activist. I'm looking
Mhm.
forward to that. Love your style of writing, Tony. I just don't know. Um, I haven't met any writers like yourself, and I think you're a phenomenal writer. I say
Thank
this
you.
each
Thank you.
time. I really do like your writing.
That means a lot.
Um, yeah, I really do like your writing because I've been like 20 years plus now, and I've seen your writing, and I really do enjoy it. Like I
Thank
said,
you.
I can't put you in a genre pigeonhole because you write different every time.
Thank you. That
I
means a
think
lot.
that's a great craft.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. So
All
good
right.
night to you, Tony. Thank
I'll
you for
see you
being
guys
here.
later. Thank you.
Yeah. All
Bye-bye.
right. Bye-bye. Guys, thank you for being here tonight. That's Tony Lindsay. We talked about his book, Melanie Knight. It's a vampire story. And in this story, it's a lot of, sci-fi. Some people, like he said, sci-fi, as well as you got family, betrayal, love interest, and you do have some espionage, mayhem. It is a really good story. So thank you guys for that. Also, our next coming up is Saving Becca. This is a part 2 that we're going to talk about. Not that the book has a part 2, but we got some unfinished business to talk about. We're talking about confronting female genital circumcision. And you guys know, and it's Carolyn Omoifo. So you guys know from the last time that she was here, she did tell us that she was one of the ones that had that procedure done when she was 11 years old, and is most done in her culture at birth, when at babies, when they're babies. So that's when they do those practices, and we're going to hear more from her. So stay on the lookout. This is going to be the 23rd of September. Stay tuned. Keep it locked. Again, I'm Ellen Sutter of ESP Presents and ESP Book Chats, where we bring page turners your way. Also, if you are an author and you would like for your book to be on our pages, do take yourself here or follow us on Twitter or Facebook. On Twitter is Mrs. Suds, and on Facebook, ESP Presents. And we also have our book of the month, with is going to be the librarian. We're going to kick that off at the end of this month, and we will still talk about our book. Our group, we're going to get together and talk about finally finishing this lineage of grace. 5 stories, 5 women's stories. You have Tamar, Rahab, Ruth, Bathsheba, and Mary. 5 biblical women of the Bible. Hopefully you can see that, by Jane Francine Rivers. And she do have that book is wonderful. She brings it right up to date and give it voice our day and time, but she does have plenty of scriptures there that you can follow and to follow the story, but she did give them voice. So that was wonderful. Thank you guys. Again, I'm Ellen Sutter, ESP Presents, signing off. Signing off, guys. Thank you for being here. Good night.